Hey friends, let's step into a strange space. Not noise, not chaos. Silence. Silence can heal. A pause before the orchestra swells, the hush before a kiss, the breath drawn before a prayer. But silence can also suffocate. In 1633, Galileo stands before the Inquisition. His telescope had shown him what few dared believe, that the earth was not the center of the universe. The truth burned in his eyes. But facing torture, his hands shook as he whispered his recantation. He bowed his head, silenced. History remembers his silence as survival, but also as loss. And centuries later, in 1994, silence fell again, this time in Rwanda. Radios crackled with hate, calling neighbors cockroaches. Families whispered in darkened churches, waiting for machetes to fall. The world heard it and yet turned away. Nearly 1 million lives were crushed in 100 days. The silence of those who might have spoken became the loudest sound of all. That's the paradox. Silence can be mercy or betrayal. Silence is not always weakness. Sometimes it's a shield. In monasteries, monks take vows of silence, believing words can cloud what the soul knows best in stillness. In moments of grief, silence holds more than speeches ever could. Hands clasped, eyes lowered, a quiet presence saying, "I am here with you." The Stoics, like Epictetus, taught that silence is power. To not answer an insult is to rise above it. To not react in rage is to win against it. And in many native traditions, silence is reverence. To sit with the earth, to listen without rushing to fill the air, that is not emptiness but respect. Silence can protect, connect, heal. But that's only one side of its weight, because silence can also wound. History drips with it. In Stalin's Soviet Union, neighbors vanished in the night. Those left behind sealed their lips, not out of agreement but survival. The silence of millions became the dictator's fortress. Even closer in families, silence can be cruelty. Abuse ignored, secrets buried, words left unsaid until wounds rot. A slammed door, a turned back, a refusal to speak. Sometimes silence is louder than shouting. Silence is never neutral. It either shelters or it sharpens. And the hardest silence may not be political, but personal. Psychologists tell us that silence in relationships corrodes faster than arguments. You can recover from harsh words. But silence is absence. A void where love used to live. Think of a marriage where partners stop speaking long before the papers are signed. Or funerals, where mourners confess that their sharpest grief is not what they said, but what they left unsaid. The weight of silence presses heaviest in the words we never dared to speak. But silence is not unbreakable. Some of history's loudest moments came from those who broke it. Martin Luther King Jr., writing from a jail cell, said his deepest disappointment wasn't the hatred of enemies, it was the silence of friends. In the end, he wrote, "We will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." Gandhi, in contrast, sometimes chose silence, spending days without speech as a way to sharpen truth. The difference? His silence was chosen, not imposed. That's the line we must walk. Silence we choose can heal. Silence forced upon us can crush, and silence hasn't left us, it hums in our own century. On social media, silence is demanded, sometimes as solidarity, other times as punishment. Whistleblowers wrestle with it, stay silent and protect themselves, or speak and risk everything. Even pandemics taught us, silence spreads. People hid symptoms, feared being cast out, and in silence the sickness grew. We live in an age of endless noise, yet silence still decides who lives, who suffers, who is heard, and who is forgotten. So here's the weight of silence. It is never empty. It can be mercy or betrayal, a balm or a blade. Galileo's silence saved his body, but delayed the stars. Rwanda's silence cost 1 million lives, and in our own lives, silence can cradle love or strangle it. The question is not whether silence is powerful, it always is. The question is, when should we hold it, and when must we break it? That's where I'll leave the lantern tonight. Share this with someone who's carrying words they've locked away too long. And don't forget to subscribe, so together we can keep rethinking the wisdom of the past and the puzzles of the present. I'm Quinn, And this is Think Again. Until next time, question on.